Happy Sunday night and welcome to the Park Adventures Club. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is the place where we talk about all things about the parks, and thank you for being here with us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to not that. Please subscribe to the Park Adventures Club. We would love to have you. It's parkadventuresclub.com. And then also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so it helps people to find us. And us as a cozy crew tonight. We had a last minute, I don't want to call it a substitution, but we had a loss tonight. Our good friend Pete Carney was supposed to be on with us tonight, but is not. He is feeling a little under the weather, so we wish him very well. We hope to see him in a few weeks. But tonight you have a double Rob situation going on with me and Mr. Rob Bazemore. What's going on?
Howdy, great to be here, man.
Yeah, thanks for doing the show, man. I appreciate it. I always love your hot takes. I feel like no matter what I'm thinking, you're thinking the opposite, which is, that's what makes for a fun time. So thank you for being here. For those of you who have not been here with us for one of our what we call our pack meetings or our Park Adventures Club, we go by Rob's Rules of Order. So if either Rob, I guess, gets out of order, we got a gavel. We got to get you a gavel, I guess. No, that's too much power. You can't have that. It's fine. So the way we do this meeting is we have an agenda, and the agenda is tonight as follows. We're going to be talking about the reading of the minutes, which is the past week in Disney Parks News or Parks News, the Beak and Barrel, which we have more information on, the new Pirates Tavern that's opening up at Magic Kingdom, the latest Halloween updates. We talked about Mickey's Not So Scary last week, and we have more information on just Halloween in general. The Disney Destiny had its float out, which is a big milestone in that one. And then Avengers Infinity Defense has gone vertical, and we have the Crush Magnet, which was announced for annual pass holders. We'll talk about that, which will lead us into our big topic of the night, which is Disney annual passes. Is it too expensive, or is it worth it? So that's the agenda for tonight. Rob, let's talk first about the Beak and Barrel. Beforehand, you were telling me that you were pretty excited about this one coming, and that you're going to try to make plans to go there. This is the Pirates Tavern that we have been hearing about for a while. It's going to be adjacent to the gift shop at Pirates of the Caribbean, taking over the old area that was the Pirates sort of makeover area. And they're going to have food. They showed us what the food was. What are you thinking? How are you feeling?
I'll continuously say that Magic Kingdom has the worst food offerings in all the parks. And anytime you can add something to Magic Kingdom with additional alcohol and or some good snacks, super for it. Also, this is a return of some substantial theming, right? We complain a lot that a lot of the new things that have opened in the park haven't been very deep in their theming. And this seems really deep in its theming all across the board, from the design of the actual bar itself to the menus. It looks really, really well themed, and I'm excited to give it a shot.
Okay. Honestly, man, anytime that there's plastic, I get all excited. And this thing right here looks pretty exciting, but it's like $50 for this drink. I'm not sure that's going to be on the agenda for me.
Yeah, don't act like you're not going to have it. That's crazy.
You don't think so? I mean, honestly, do I want it? Yes, but then it's just going to sit on the shelf. We'll talk about my plastic obsession at another time, I'm sure. So let's talk about the next thing, which is the latest Halloween updates at Walt Disney World. Last week, we talked about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and all the things that were coming to that. I think it was just this week, they dropped the new foodie guide for Mickey's Not So Scary not Mickey's Not So Scary, for just Halloween. And, last week it was about all the food for the Halloween party. This is just the stuff that they're going to have, the regular treats during the spooky season at Walt Disney World. A lot of good stuff here, but we also got some plastic updates, and the fact that the Mickey Ghost popcorn bucket is going to be available during today guests. I kind of saw that coming. I'm definitely going to get one of those when I go for Destination D23. But Rob, when you're looking through all this stuff, I mean, I know you're not a big Instagram guy. All of it feels like it's beautiful and ready for Instagram, but is there any of it that looked good to you? Maybe the, the Stitch vampire cake. That one looks pretty good. Would you go all the way to the Polynesian for that one?
Actually, I will, and I'll go there. Actually, I usually stay next door, so it looks good. There's one thing that I think anyone can say about Disney is that no one can say that they don't do the holidays right. Specifically, Halloween and Christmas, all across the board, from a great merch to over the top desserts to the parties that they do. They really do a great job with the holidays, and I think that shows. I think last week at the earnings, they talked a bit about occupancy rates and for the hotels, and they continue to climb. Even when people say that the parks attendance are down slightly, the attendance for the holiday season tends to always be strong. Again, it just goes back to Disney's great attention to detail and what they do creatively to make the holidays exceptional. And it starts with October.
Let me ask you, for your preference, do you prefer Halloween or do you prefer going during Christmas, or would you just rather be there like during the summer?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, summer. I made the mistake of going this summer a few weeks ago, and I will never go back in the summer again. Um, but Christmas is by far my favorite. But Halloween is also pretty amazing. So this year, hopefully, I'll get a chance to do both.
Yep. No, that would be awesome. I think you should. One of the other things that happened this week is that the Disney Destiny had its float out ceremony. Rob, off the top of your head, do you know how many this will make in the Disney fleet? Do you know what number this is?
This is embarrassing for me to say as a Disney fan. I've never even been on a Disney cruise. If I were to guess, maybe I'm saying this is this our 12th boat? I'm not. I'm just
No, they're
guessing.
going to have 13 altogether. I believe this is the seventh boat of in the fleet, the third of the Wish class, and so the Treasure preceded it. This one's going to launch in June. I mean, not June. I'm drunk. It's going to start in November is when it launches. So don't be looking for June because it's going to be in November. It's pretty exciting to see that as these things progress, they usually have specials on Disney Plus about each of the ships. I know they have one on the Treasure and then one on the Wish. I'm looking forward to seeing even more. We've gotten a lot of sneak previews about this one. This one has. Spidey on the back of it, which is exciting. It's a good looking ship, but I mean, again, I'm not sure like I could pick the Wish versus the Treasure out of a lineup. If we were, if they were just showing us this stuff from far away. I mean, they all look very similar, and they're supposed to. They're all the Wish class or whatever. So this one, the bookings are going to start in September. I think it's September 6th for people who are in the Castaway Club, and then it starts I think mid-September for everyone else to start booking this for the November trip. The first one, of course, will be the Influencer's Delight. Every influencer in the world will be on that first voyage, I'm sure, and take a lot of pictures and share them back with us. But if you haven't done a Disney cruise before, I highly recommend it. More expensive, absolutely, but I enjoyed the couple that I've been on so far. I've never been on one of the Wish class. I would love to do the Treasure, I think, is the one that I want to do. But Disney Destiny is getting close to being there. And then the Adventure, I guess, is the next one in the list. That's the one they bought, mostly built, and are going to be putting that one together. Would you go to Alaska? A lot of people love an Alaska trip.
Yeah. So a few things. So I am going to take my first cruise. It's not a Disney cruise, but I'm taking my first cruise next March to see if I like a cruise. And then if I do, our plan is to take the next cruise to Alaska. The Disney one, I believe, actually takes out of Vancouver, which for me is only a couple-hour drive. I hope that I like cruises. Everyone that I talk to who's a Disney fan and takes cruises says that that the cruise line is really like the personification of all things Disney, right? The service level, the food, the experience is the very peak of Disney, and I do want to get a chance to experience that in the not too distant future.
You sound like an advertisement when you say it's the peak. It's the peak of
Well,
good living. There,
and I hear it's the top of the cost structure too, right? It's really super experience to have that fully immersive experience. But I did want to give it a shot.
did you see the footage of the cruise ship slide that broke this past week?
I did. That's some scary stuff, man.
I mean, it's already a little bit like intimidating to be stuck in a tube anyway, but then yeah, something like that breaking out, definitely pretty scary. So I, let's move on. The next one I wanted to talk about here is the Avengers Infinity Defense has finally gone vertical. And when when I say gone vertical, I feel like we're being a little kind in that. I feel like we're getting really excited here about so here's the crew out here that's together, looking like a firing squad is on the other side of them. They don't look too happy to be there. And then here's vertical. Like this is where they go vertical here. So I think we're pretty early in this process here, but one of the complaints that they've had about Avengers Campus in general was that it was incomplete when it opened up. I feel like a lot of people think that it should have been they should have already had this e-ticket there when it opened up, that there's not enough there. You've been to Avengers Campus. Do you feel like there's enough there? And then after you answer that, the rumor is that they could open up that first Kuka arm thing as early as 2026. Do you think they should open it up in pieces again, or do you think they should wait until 2027 or 2028 when all of it's done and ready to go and open it up in one bit? What's your take on that one?
There's two things here. I think the best obviously experience, and I think back when Galaxy's Edge opened, right? And they opened also in pieces. So it wasn't the best experience, right? And it was so overwhelmed with guests, and there weren't enough attractions in the park. So I think that's quite a bit different than what we're seeing with Avengers Campus, right? There's not that much demand. When you walk through there, you don't see really extensively long lines. So I don't think that there is really a need to hold everything back. I would, just because you want to give guests as much to experience, as much value as you can through the parks. I would open up in stages if I was, since the land is already opened, I would be fine opening up in stages.
Yeah. Okay. We kind of did that with Galaxy's Edge, right? They opened up everything but Rise, the big attraction, and there wasn't a nice restaurant. I guess there was docking bay, but there wasn't a sit-down restaurant. I feel like that it's kind of similar with Avengers Campus, but I like the vibe. I feel like something that they brought to Avengers Campus they never really officially brought, at least to Galaxy's Edge on the East Coast, was the entertainment. The fact that it felt like it was a living, breathing land with the Avengers walking around and the Dora Milaje and the just bringing out the characters right after a show would launch. That kind of stuff made it really feel alive. You're sitting there at PIMS, you hear the music play, and then you see Black Panther up on on Avengers HQ. So, obviously we know that this was supposed to be more. This e-ticket attraction was kind of changed already from what it was supposed to be. But I'm looking forward to this open up, but it seems like it's going to be a while. So honestly, I think I'm with you. Let's just open it all at the same time once they all have it all ready to go. And
again, I don't think so, because when you're there in Avengers Land, I don't recall the last time I was there and I'm like, this is so packed. There needs to be more there, right? It doesn't. It's never that busy. I do like the fact that they have entertainment, although the entertainment has been clawed back drastically. I don't think there's necessarily the demand. Because the crowds aren't there in order to need both rides open simultaneously.
Yeah, I was trying to think. There's a Yogi Berra quote that my dad used to always say that's nobody goes there anymore because it's too busy. I don't know. I'm messing that up. But the point being, I think in this case nobody goes because you've already done it. I think that the Spider-Man attraction, while I like doing it when I go, if I was there all the time, I would probably miss out on that one. Yeah.
And then your arms are sore for a while afterwards.
Yeah, and then you can pay to level up and use the web tool that they can sell you at the web outfitters there. That's the thing. All right, let's do the final piece of old business here, which is man, and I get excited, Rob, about these. I get excited when they have these new magnets that come out. That's one of the things that I like about being a pass holder is that they have these magnets. Now, this is not the magnet that I thought we were going to see when they showed that the snorkel from Finding Nemo. I thought it's either going to be Dory or it's going to be Nemo, guaranteed. Never even thought about Crush. But this one also, the other thing is I thought this one you can get at Animal Kingdom now if you were a pass holder, but I really thought that there was going to be something in conjunction with the Food and Wine Festival and they'd release it at EPCOT, but instead it's something that they're released over here at Animal Kingdom. So now, Rob, when I go, I've got to go to Animal Kingdom. Like I wasn't planning on going to Animal Kingdom, but now I got to go get my freaking magnet. Make sure to give them my blood type and all of those things. But this is going to be available at Animal Kingdom from August 7th, which has already happened, through September 27th. Do you collect these at all? Do you ever, or is it always at a time when you can't get there?
I get them if I just happen to be in the park when they're there. No one makes a trip to, I guess I should say no one, but I don't think very many people make a trip to the park just to get this magnet. If I happen to be there and I see a long line over, is that the Creation Station or wherever it's at in Epcot, if I see a line and I just happen to be there when they're giving it out, I'll collect it. But I don't go out of my way for these. I mean, what are you going to do with them? Put them on your car, you put them on your refrigerator. What do you do with these magnets?
Dude, do not put it on your. I feel like don't put it on your car and roll up to Walt Disney World, because then people go, look, free magnet. I missed that one. I can add that one to my collection. I was looking in the chat here, and Care Bear said, "Ooh, gross! Look what they've done to my boy." This is that thing where it's like that hashtag not my Mickey. Like that. This is the. It's that old Mickey. That new Mickey Mouse artwork type of a thing that we see on this one, and we didn't see this with the last magnet with Maleficent, so it's like they're bouncing back and forth. But he definitely is drawn more in that new Mickey Mouse style, like all the rest of them are, like Oswald was, like Figment was. What do you think about that? Like, do you care?
No.
Who is your number one character? Like, and what if they did this to him or her?
I mean, it's Mickey and Minnie. I'm a Fab Five guy. I'm an old guy. That's what we like, right? All these new designs and new characters are for the kids. Rob, the kids.
Yeah. I was looking at Care Bear says, I do not like the current Pie Eye. Is that? Yeah. It's a thing. All right. Well, so that's pretty much it for our, we're going to close down our old business there. I'm going to go ahead and do this because ceremony is everything when it comes to a meeting. And we like to brush up on last week's topics, but our main topic, the reason that we are here tonight, is to talk a little bit about the annual pass program. And the question that I've put out there for everybody this week is it too expensive for a Disney annual pass, or is it worth it? And let me tell you, like, where my mind goes on this one, because I've been a pass holder for a long time. I have DVC. I've talked about this on here. I feel like I spread out my cards when I go, and I go, what do you need? Do you need a DVC? Do you need like the Visa? I got a Disney Visa. I got an annual pass. What's going to get me the best deal? I'm bought in. I'm bought in all the way, and I know you're DVC as well. When I first started doing DVC annual passes, you got a discount for getting an annual pass. I feel like we're not there. You and I don't live at Anaheim or in Florida, but we go a lot. And so I feel like, I have an annual pass to Walt Disney World. I had an annual pass to Disneyland until about 3 weeks ago. So I had a Magic Key, which a lot of people would go, Rob, you're on the East Coast. Why do you have this? And part of it is there's something about belonging that if you love Disney as much as we do, it's like you feel like you're in this like special club, a very expensive club, almost a crippling club. When those dues roll around, it's almost like when my tax bill hits. It's just like, what? I forgot how expensive these things are, and especially if you have a family of 4. trying to afford an annual pass is a thing. Now, unfortunately, they decided that the consumer was getting too good a deal. You remember Mr. Bob Chapek was in charge around that time, that they said, let's, COVID happened. They were like, let's redo the California annual passes, and they sunset the word annual pass in California, and they opened up something called Magic Key. And then in Florida, they got rid of the levels that we had in Florida, and they introduced a whole new level with fun names like, Pixie Pass and Pirate Pass and Sorcerers and Creta Pass. And they're just so fun and so much more expensive and so much more, I feel like, limiting in a lot of ways. You're a pass holder on both coasts, Rob?
I'm no longer Magic Key because I just finally, although I go to Disneyland multiple times a year, you only go for 2 or 3 days at a time. So I just did the math, and by the time you do packages with the hotels, it just didn't make sense for me to continue to have even though I'm on the West Coast, it did make sense for me to continue to have a Magic Key for Disneyland. I do continue to have an annual pass for Orlando because I go there pretty frequently. I have business, and I just may drop by for a day or two. I have family in Florida, so there's lots of times that it makes sense for me to be in Orlando. It's definitely a great value for me for Orlando, but not so much when it comes to Disneyland.
Well, let me just share with you some very sad information that I was able to pull up when I started talking or looking into this conversation. But again, when we talk about this, Rob, I do something called theme park math, and I did a video about getting, and we're not going to talk about annual passes for like SeaWorld or for Universal or any of those tonight, especially because Universal's kind of in flux right now. It's like, what are they going to do with Epic? Right now, you can only get an annual pass for the 2 first parks and Volcano Bay. You can't get anything for Epic yet. What are they going to do? How are they going to change that? And what's that going to make that that price point? I did a video about Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I just did an annual pass for their membership program that they have, and it felt like I was getting the deal of a lifetime after like dealing with the annual pass system in Disneyland and Disney World. And so I do theme park math, and we kind of joke about it, but I saw this woman who posted something to TikTok that was like, all right, if my Enchant or Believe key cost $1,500, and then I'm going to pay $200 a month. She's like, well, minus the $200 I paid, then divide it by 12 months. Then I'm going to go, if there's 30 days in a month and 16-hour days, if I go from rope drop to the end of the day, then it's 20 cents a minute or to be there. And then it's like, oh, but if I'm getting my discount, then also that applies. And if I'm not renewing my gym membership, then I'm saving money because I'm getting the steps in the park. And basically at this point, I'm making money. And it's like, that's theme park math. That's what we do. That's what we do to justify it to ourselves. I mean, I'm sure we all have things we do, and it may not just be theme parks, but I'm sure we all have stuff we do. But I pulled this information up from all ears, and it's pretty thorough. But I wanted to share it here before we get deep into this conversation, just to make everybody super sad about the fact that this shows that in 1971, a one-day ticket was $350. Now, there were ticket books, so you weren't getting an all-encompassing experience there, but there were no annual passes. And you can see this gray column is annual passes, and this brown column here is a premium annual pass. But as we scroll down and look further, it looks like they came into play about 1983. Looks like there were $125, $100 in 1982 there. $100 for an annual pass. I can't even. But then again, if it's 1982, there were only 2 parks. So, that's a thing. And then 1983, 125. And it's like, how did it get so fast? How did we get up there? Now, here in 1994, they're introducing the premium passes. So it's like, oh, well, you can get one level for $200, but for $319, I can't imagine how great $319 is. And then you get a little further here. Now it's $369. 2011, we're talking $500, $600. It's just going up and up. 2015, $749. And then here we go, June 2019. Now this is before COVID happened. $1,119 or $1,219 for this one. And I was trying to track down what were their kid annual passes, and it doesn't look like there were that $3 to $10 or $3 to $10 level for an annual pass. It looks like just an annual pass was an annual pass. However, they did have DVC discounts. If you had a Disney Vacation Club, they would give you a discount. And on top of that, there were also there's something that was a Premier Pass, which would give you both coasts. And I looked into that for a minute. Never owned one, but I looked into it for a minute, and I thought, well, maybe I was holding passes in both Disneyland and Disney World. I thought maybe I should do that. Now that doesn't exist anymore. When they sunset that, the annual passes in California, they got rid of that plan in general and then reintroduced. So before we shut down for COVID, it was $1,195 for an annual pass, $1,295 for the premium. I will say that my annual pass for Walt Disney World just expired, and I just had to renew it. And it was actually a pretty good renewal deal. It was $250 off of the Incredikey and Incredipass. And so I did renew that one because I have some plans to go down there very shortly and spend some time there. And it makes sense, as you were talking about. But the Magic Key was no renewal discount. And so I was there for San Diego Comic-Con a couple weeks ago. It was a year from the last time I was there. I was still able to use my annual pass, and I literally used my Magic Key on the last day it was valid, Rob. I feel like I was just squeezing out the last bit of value on that one. But you said you don't do a Magic Key anymore. Is it because it's so incredibly expensive? You talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I would go if I would have one if I went more frequently. But I don't. So I go. For me, a trip to Disneyland is so short. Like maybe I go there 2 nights, 3 days. So I'd have to go. I'd have to make like 10 trips for it to make sense financially. Plus, was a lot of deals, right? If you get a room, I typically stay on property, so you get a room and you get a deal on tickets. So there just wasn't enough value there for me. Clearly, I think if you're a local, right, and you go all the time, it's definitely going to make sense, even at these higher rates. But for me, just the short number of days I stay when I go, it just didn't make financial sense for me anymore.
Well, let's talk first about the Magic Key on the West Coast, and then we'll talk about the annual pass on the East Coast. But when they sunset that original program, there was a great deal, especially if you were a Southern California resident. You were getting a good deal. Yeah. And so just like they sunset the Fast Pass and introduced Lightning Lane so that they were different, they sunset the annual pass program, which I actually had an annual pass when they sunset them, and they were calling us legacy pass holders. And so when that happened, and we shut down for COVID in 2020, I still had an annual pass at Disneyland. And then when they opened it back up again, I know you and I were like having a conversation the day that they went on sale because we were both like trying to get in there. And that was back when they had something called the Dream Key. And the Dream Key had no blackout date. Did you get Dream? You did?
I did. And I'm still getting the emails about the legal whatever thing in the end for getting money back.
The class action suit.
Yeah. Yep.
Where they're like, hey, we got you another $22. Do you want to put that in Venmo, PayPal? How do you want your $22? And it's like, do you know how much I paid for that thing? So, I mean, I bought the top tier Dream Key at the time, and it had no blackout dates. And as you mentioned, there was a lawsuit because you had to have park reservations to get in. And the people who sued said, look, you said that there were no blackout dates, but if I can't get in the park, that's a blackout date. So they restructured the rules and they sunset the I feel like I keep saying sunset, but they got rid of a lot of stuff, Rob. They brought in they took out the Dream Key and they brought in the Inspire Key. So we have Inspire, Believe, Enchant, and then the Imagine Key. And the Imagine Key is a Southern California key only, and it's blacked out like every weekend, and you can't get it. So the day that they sunset that program in California, I thought, this is the end. There will never be annual passes again. And what will people do? What will bloggers do when they have to pay every day to get in? We kind of found that out with Epic because there was no annual pass. Bloggers had to pay every day to go into the parks. And so, I think they've kind of backed off a little bit on their reporting because it's expensive to go in every day. And I'm sure they'll come back when the annual pass program opens up and we'll see a lot more information there. But I really thought that they were going to not bring this program back because we already knew Bob Chapek thought there was not a lot of value. You remember that in an annual pass holder?
Yeah, so I think that's a big piece, right? And I don't think any of them. I don't think can you buy any of the Magic Keys right now? I think they're all on hold because they definitely are trying to control the number of local guests that are there. Right? I think their beliefs, and there might be some truth in it, is that some people may not go to the parks because of the perception that they are they're too busy, right? You go, you have to wait in lines for a long time. They're overcrowded. So I think the idea is anything that will keep people who would come and buy full price tickets, stay in a hotel. Disney wants to make sure that there's nothing that gets in their way of having the best experience. So controlling the number of Magic Key holders that are in the parks at any given time, I think is their way to do that. So that's why you'll see them pulse it. They'll pause them. They'll allow people to renew, but then when a certain number of people don't renew, then they'll open it up again and let people come in and buy tickets. To just trying to control crowds a bit.
Well, that's what happened to me. Is that I just let mine expire because I thought there was no benefit to renewing. You had to pay the same price to renew as you would to get a new one. So I thought, why would I renew right now? I don't have any plans right now to go to Disneyland after I just went. I'm sure I'll go again. And having a Magic Key, you start to make excuses for why you need to go, especially when they run the 70th celebration or Season of the Force or a lot of those things that they do. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to get it. But what I'll do is I'll wait a little while. And then I'll buy another one, and then I won't actually have to activate it until I go again. So that, basically bank it. But it's a very expensive key. And so I was like, let me not do this. And then they pause them. And some of the articles, and they could be sensational because a lot of times, these blogs write very sensational headlines, said, they've been paused until further notice and, may not be coming back, or saying things like that, which again, I can't imagine a world where that happens, where they don't bring something back. I mean, it seems like it would benefit them to continue to hike the price and just dare people to get them rather than not offer this program at all. But let's take a look at what we're talking about when we talk about the Magic Key program. So
the big question is, Rob, did you learn your lesson? Does Disney teach you your lesson about not renewing? Or do you have enough FOMO now that in the future you will learn your lesson and auto and renew every time?
No, this is the second time it's happened.
Oh.
Because the first time it happened, I let it go, and then they paused them. And then when they came back, I was like, I had 80 people on standby, to tell me when it was coming back so that I'd be ready. And then they were like, oh, they're coming back. And so I bought one. But this is the second time it happened. So no, I'm not learning my lesson. If there was a discount to renew, I might have felt more of a need to do it. But here's another thing, Rob, that I don't understand is that you and I may have talked about this before, either on this show or another, is that they don't operate these parks the same.
No.
It's weird. Disneyland, Disney World, they operate them differently. And one of the operational things is when you go to renew your Magic Key, you have 30 days before it expires. Then at 12:01 after it expires, you can't renew. As opposed to that in Orlando, they're like, you got 60 days beforehand. We'll remind you a couple times. And then you know what? We got 30 days afterwards. You can do that too. The very first time I lost the Magic Key, I think it was that I thought I would renew after the expiration just like I do in Disney World. And it was like, nope, this doesn't exist anymore. What are you talking about? What Magic Key? You never had a Magic Key. And I'm like, so I called them and they're like, you have to renew it before it expires. I mean, there's no benefit to them, in my opinion, but you kind of mentioned it before, is that they want to manage this process. There's no benefit to them. Like, I knew that if I renewed 30 days after, I'm not going to get an extra 30 days. I'm just paying for those days after that. But it cuts off, and it's frustrating. So with that said, let's go back to this list. So here's the list of the keys: the Inspire, Believe, Enchant, and Imagine. So to my knowledge, Rob, you can buy, versus what we'll find out with Florida, you can buy an Inspire, a Believe, or Enchant if you are not a California resident. It just is a difference of what you get with it versus versus the money. And then the Imagine key is a Southern
I
California.
don't believe you can have the payment plan on any of the keys if you aren't local, if you aren't in California.
Right, the payment plan. So the payment plan is listed right here. It says that's only for California residents. But I just mean like in Florida, they don't even let you buy
Oh
any
yeah,
key other than the incredibly expensive Incredit Pass, which doesn't look expensive. It looks like a bargain compared to this. But yeah, so yeah, you don't get
unless you're DVC, then you can.
correct. So this payment plan, yes, this doesn't apply. But so the tickets you can buy, $17.49 for the Inspire key, $1,749 to buy the Inspire key. What's funny to me is they understand this and they break it down here. It says can pay for itself in this many visits. So what they are estimating it being, they're doing the theme park math for us, Rob. 11 visits, it says, that you need. And then it has this read more section and that breaks it down based on tier 0 park costs. So 11 visits. And then for the Believe key, it's 9 visits. And then for the Enchant key, it's 6 visits to pay for itself. I'm not going 11 times. Now, when I go for an extended period of time. But so that I think that this is only part of the math that laps into it. Now, all of them are park hoppers, which is something that you have to pay an additional price to get onto your ticket. Disneyland tickets were pretty expensive.
Yep.
You have to pay for park hopper if you want it on your regular Disneyland ticket. Number of theme park reservations that could be held at a time: 6, 4, and 2. 2. That's a crazy amount. And
Yeah,
by
if you're a local, that's a big thing. That's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. But by the way, Rob, they are militant about those because in Disney World, I think that if you don't tap in, they'll let it slide. At Disneyland, if you don't tap in, they send you a letter and said that's 1 strike. If you get 3 strikes where you make a reservation and you don't come, then we're going to penalize you for, I think it's like 30 days or something like that.
It's 30 days. Yeah.
So they're hardcore about it, and I know because I missed one last year and I was all upset about it. And apparently they reset after 90 days. Yeah. So the merchandise is significantly different because if you get that Inspire key, you get 20% off of merchandise, 15% off of dining, as opposed to all the rest of them. It's 10%. Unlimited photo pass downloads. Take that for what you will. Orlando charges you $100 a year more. Lightning Lane multi-pass discount, 25%. They don't do that in Orlando. And then extras unlocked discounts, and this is like magnets, etc. And then also parking. So free parking is included if you're on the Inspire. It's 50% off for the Believe, and then the Enchant key is 25% off, and then the same for the others. So I think that there's definitely a value there when you're doing that theme park math. If you're getting 20% off of merch, if you buy merch, if you're getting 15% off of dining, and I love that you get it off of your mobile order there. You don't get that at Disney World, so that's a perk that you're getting. And then also they have a couple things that you like the Magic Key Terrace, and a special area to eat at the Food and Wine, and some other things like that. But that's a lot of money.
Yep. One other thing that's different there is that depending upon which tier key you have, you have to park in different parking garages too. So if you have a cheaper pass, you have to pay more for parking, and then you have to walk further. So that's another small nuance. Can you imagine can you imagine all of the outrage that would happen in Orlando if you had to park further away if you had a lower tier pass?
Yeah, no, I can't imagine that. But here's the thing: is that parking is something that you can't sleep on parking. Now the thing is, if you flew in and then you Ubered to stay in the Disneyland hotel, you're not going to need parking.
Yeah.
But if you're there locally, parking is a must because it's such a bear, and they're very militant about towing and fees and things like that. So it is definitely a value. When I was in Nashville, I got, and Patrick gives me a hard time about this all the time, I had a Dollywood annual pass. And part of that, again, my justification was parking. Parking was like $30-$40 to get into parking. So that's, depending on how many times you go, that starts to add up very quickly. When I did the theme park math for Busch Gardens, that was the same thing because the parking was like $40. So yeah, you make a good point. But parking is one of those things where I think there's a value to that, and I think a lot of people probably update to the Inspire key for just that reason. But again, when I'm in the park and I've got my mobile order and I get that 15% off because I have a Magic Key, I get pretty excited about that. They also have, I feel like, a lot more Magic Key exclusive stuff. Whereas I'm a merch guy, so like, Magic Key exclusive T-shirt for the 70th, or a popcorn bucket, or a tumbler, or any of that kind of stuff. I feel like, again, that's a part where you feel like you have membership. I actually had anxiety about missing a little bit. I don't want to overplay it. I mean, the world's a tough place, so poor me, right? But about losing the Magic Key, because again, I couldn't say I'm a Magic Key holder anymore. And somebody was like, "Well, do you need it?" And I'm like, "No, because I'm not planning on going anytime soon. We have plans to go other places. We're going to go to Destination. We're going to go to Halloween Horror Nights. We're doing a lot of stuff in Florida, so I don't really necessarily need it." It's just nice to be able to say I was a member of the club, and if Oogie Boogie tickets go on sale and I want them a week before they, everybody else gets them, then I get to do that. But if I'm going back now, it would probably be for a hard ticketed event like Oogie Boogie, and so if I did that, I wouldn't need a Magic Key anyway. It wouldn't help me because you don't really get a discount. You just get to buy them early.
They let you give them your money earlier. That's great.
Dude,
Nice.
that's how Disney works, my friend. You know that. Let's move over to let's move over to Anaheim and talk about the annual pass program there, because, like I said, they changed the annual pass program, and again, a couple things about it. You get that discount for renewing. It's the I just renewed my Inspire key, like I said, for like $250 cheaper than what they charge for it. But let's just kind of jump into it here. So here's the Pixie Dust Pass, the Pirate Pass, the Sorcerer Pass, and the Incredipass. Now, the only thing you can buy if you're not DVC and you're not in the state of Florida, the only thing you can buy is the Incredipass, and it outlines that for you here. It says, if you want the Sorcerer's Pass, you can be a Disney Vacation Club owner or a Florida state resident. That's really, I feel like, because they got rid of the discount that they were giving to the DVC. That's probably why they did that. But even here, that ticket is $200 less, $1549 instead of $1749, than the highest tier at in California. However, you have to add on if you want a photo pass, whereas that's included in your Inspire key. So now it's really only $100 cheaper. And then if you want, you can add water parks and more onto that. But the big difference is the blackout dates. So if we go specifically to this Pixie Dust Pass, man, this one, the blackout dates on this one, so you can't go in on any weekend. You can't go on any Saturday or Sunday. You're blocked out during Christmas. You're blocked out during spring break. I think, where's November? I'm pretty sure. You can't go on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. You're blocked out that entire week after or around Thanksgiving, and then you get a couple other weeks here. So that Pixie Pass, while it looks like, okay, this isn't such a bad deal, this is only $469, you really only can go during the week, which again, if you're a Florida resident, that's probably the worst time for you to go, and that's the only person that can buy this one.
Yeah, I will tell you that there's been a big shift because they did something similar in California. And it seems like now many people are saying that the weekends are the least busy time to go out in California now, because so many people have that pass that doesn't allow them weekend access. And I wonder if that's what they're trying to do in Orlando.
Yeah. I'm looking at the chat here, and TSN 6899 says, is that Disney dollars or US dollars? No, they want that cash money. Every time I think about Disney dollars, I always think about that thing from The Simpsons where he went to Krusty Land and outside the kids sold him a bunch of Krusty dollars, or it wasn't Krusty Land, it was what do you call it? The Itchy and Scratchy, I think, and they maybe not, I don't know, but he sold them a bunch of dollars, and you go inside and it's like all these signs up that says not valid here. So that's what I always think about when I think about that. But Yeah. So you mentioned about the, I think again here, parking is included. That's a good thing if you're not staying at a Disney hotel. However, when I'm staying at a Disney hotel, usually when I go to Orlando, I'm going to stay at a Disney hotel. Either I'm DVC and I'm staying there, or I'm going to stay at Pop Century to be there on the cheap
Yeah.
Disney wise. And so I'm already going to get free parking. So the free parking to me doesn't matter. But if I'm Pete Carney and I go in every day, that's a big deal to get free parking every time you go in. And I think that
So,
those people who are in Florida really get to take advantage of that.
Rob, what do you, again, and I know Disney would never announce this, but I wonder if there's anyone who's done the math to try to figure out approximately what percentage of attendance is local versus not local. Is it half? Is it 30%? Is it 40%?
If I were to guess, based on everything I've heard in the past, I would say that we're looking at about 50% in California. But here I'd say you're looking at more like 20%. Because there are people, believe it or not, who live in Orlando that just are like, I'm not going to Disney. That
I don't
place is
know
a
anyone
madhouse.
who lives in Orlando who doesn't have an annual pass. But maybe that's because I hang out with only really cool people.
Probably. But yeah, again, I think that most of my friends who live locally get that Sorcerer's Pass because they'll be blocked out for New Year's and Christmas, and then that week after Thanksgiving. But the rest of it, they pretty much can go anytime they want.
You know,
So
you couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me to go to the park during those periods of time. Those blackout periods, you could not give me money and have me go during Christmas week, or I just couldn't do it.
I think you're wrong. I think you're a liar. I think you would go if I paid you. You
No
would go.
way. No way.
You would go.
I've been many times, but it's just so miserable, so crowded. I just have no desire to go during those blackout periods.
Now, the very first time I went I only went once during New Year's. Everyone on the panel told me, don't go during New Year's. That's the dumbest thing that you could do. That's the worst time. If you could just pull a random time out that is the very worst time ever, that's the worst time. And so I was like, I'm going. And I had a plan, and we knew what we were getting into, and it worked out. But I don't mind crowds. I know a lot of people hate crowds. So if you're, one of those, but let's look at this. This is the Sorcerer's Pass. So you can see a lot of green dots here, and then you can see right here, right after November, right after the week of Thanksgiving, the Wednesday through Saturday, you can't go. And then right around Christmas, the week leading up to all the way until the first of the year, you can't go. So it's really only 2-3 weeks. That's pretty much it. I think even July 4th isn't blocked out on this one. So not too bad, considering the price difference is $500, almost $500 difference for that. So your DVC, do you have a Sorcerer's Pass?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Do you do the... Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great value compared to the rest of this, but yeah, you're only losing like I said, 2 to 3 weeks, and like you said, those are times you don't want to go.
Yeah, I would never go, and I would not pay for the Incredipass because it's $500 more if I was going to go during those periods of time. But I know without a doubt, there's no way that I would go during any of the Sorcerer Pass blackout times.
Yeah. So this one has the monthly breakouts for how much it would cost. Apparently, they allow you, it looks like, to do a monthly payment if you are buying the Incredipass, even if you're not in state.
Only if you live in Florida.
Oh, you're right. No, I see it right there. It says Florida residents only. It's a lot smaller here than it is. I was like, wait a minute, have I been missing out and paying the entire amount? Today, I tried to do it on my app because tomorrow is the day that mine expires. Again, very much been something I've been thinking about. So I'm glad we're having these conversations tonight, and I figured we would share it with everybody else. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys. So when I tried to order it, I tried to order it on my app, which was probably a mistake. But I have the Incredipass. If I wanted to get the Sorcerer's Pass, which is what I renew for my family, I have to call.
Yeah.
I can't just do it. I have to call and go through it. And I did that once and got it screwed up, which was very frustrating. So then I had to fix that. But I wish they could go and acknowledge the fact that you're a DVC owner and then just do that so that you could do it through the app. That's my only hold up with that. I do agree with you. It's a nice value to have. For me personally, I don't like to be limited in when I'm going, and because I'm getting it at a discounted price when I renew I'm okay with that. And I do here's a little tip again, I feel like this might be obvious, but I only get photo downloads for me. So I pay the $99, which by the way, when you renew, you get a discount on that too. You don't pay the $99. You pay the 83 or whatever when you renew. So then when anyone in my family does photos, I can, they're tied to me, I can download them. So to me, there's a value in just me getting that and then not paying for that for the rest of the group. Now, the water parks and sports option, do you do that?
I don't do any of that stuff. I don't care for a photo pass, and I don't do now, especially on your first day when you check in, you get to go to the water parks for free anyway. I don't have any value in those add-ons.
You're such a beautiful man. I think you're missing an opportunity not letting the world have more pictures of you. That's sad, man. I feel bad for the world that there's not more of that. So we talked about the parking is you get the discounts. You get the discounts on your merch. Is there a difference in price depending on what? For the merchandise discounts, because again, in California, there's a difference in price, a difference in discount depending on which key you have. I don't know that that's the thing with the annual pass.
There's not. It's the same discount across all the keys, all the passes in Orlando.
Yeah, that's again me thinking about how confusing this is that we operate these separately, Magic Keys versus annual passes. And again, I think the reason is they sunset that annual pass program because it was too good. And so they were like, we can't even call it that anymore. And if you were
reality check, how many people on the planet you think are comparing annual park passes on both sides of the country, or even thinking about that, or even
why do you always do this to me, Bazemore? Why do you always do this to me? Why do you always do this to me? You make me feel like I'm some kind of elitist. There's a comedian, Nate Bargatze. Love Nate Bargatze. Shout out to him. He's the best.
I'm seeing him in a couple months. He's hilarious.
Well, he did this joke, and it's not on the new tour, but he did this joke when he was talking about getting a hammock, and he said he was talking to his buddy. He said, I want to do this hammock joke, but do you think people will think I'm bragging if I say I want a hammock? They're like, oh, that must be nice. What's it like to have two trees that close together? I feel like, is that me here? Is that me like going, oh, poor me, annual pass, both coasts? I'm not rich. I mean, if I was, I would just go all the time. And I'm sure the people who work with me think I go all the time, but I go as much as I can. But I do think, back to the discount part, that's something that is huge for me. And again, I can try to justify that as part of that theme park math, that I'm getting 20% off of, merch, or 10% off of dining. However, that you don't get dining, like casual dining. It's only table service that you get the discount, and you don't get it everywhere. It depends on if it's like a third-party restaurant sometimes. And sometimes the DVC discount is as good, if not better, than the annual pass. How do you feel about that? Like, I almost feel like I should get like a double discount or something like that because I have both. But when I go in and they're like, I'm like, do you take AP? And they're like, we can do that, or DVC. It's exactly the same. And I'm thinking, then why do I have an AP?
Because you're saving the money on the tickets. Can you imagine how much you would pay if you had to buy single day passes every time you went to the parks? I mean, you would spend significantly more. That's still a great value. And then if you look at the price, the value in the parks in general, I mean, what is it? Think about what it would cost to take your family to a NFL football game 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh, totally.
Or to a Broadway show 2 or 3 times a year. This is still really good value.
No, I agree, and I say that all the time. It's funny you would bring up NFL because NFL is expensive for a 3-hour venture. But it's one of those things, just like you said, like it's, you're talking about this. How many people go all the time versus it's a once in a lifetime or a once a year thing for them to go see their favorite team? And in that case, it's okay. But when you're talking about that, when I walk through the transportation and ticket center, which I always have to correct my family because they think it's tickets and transportation, but there's more transportation going on than there is tickets. But when I walk through there and I look up at that digital board, it does make me feel better that I'm not paying that price for whatever it is that day. And I'm looking at the calendar right now. And so if I wanted to buy a ticket for, say, tomorrow, it's $137 for, wait a minute. Select one park per day. let's see, $408. Wait, no, that's a 3-day ticket. That's a 3-day ticket. I just want, let's say a 1-day ticket for tomorrow, August 11th, is $134. And it's different because, again, here's what they do at Disney World that is different, is that they sort of surge price based on the park. So if I pick one of these park tickets for tomorrow, it's Magic Kingdom's $159, but Animal Kingdom's $134, but Epcot's $144. And so, like, it's going to be different all day. So let's just say it's the Magic Kingdom that I'm going to, and I'm not going to park hop, but let me add park hopping, then it becomes $213 a ticket, for that. So $213 for a ticket for 1 day is a lot of money. And if I'm only paying $1,300 for the entire year, then it feels like a bargain. But also, again, like, if you live there, like you said, then why wouldn't you have one? Why are you smiling? What are you thinking right now?
Yeah, because I do the same terrible Disney fanboy math in my head all the time, and then
Let's just call it theme park math. I feel like that's it. Theme park math.
And I do the same thing. Like, and then you add on DVC, and you're like, okay, I have this annual pass, so I don't have to worry about buying a ticket. There's no money there. And then I have DVC, so I don't have to worry about the price of a hotel room. And then then maybe I have a few points that I can use from my Delta, and then I can fly there and be there for a weekend, and it didn't cost me anything, right? And that's the terrible math that goes on. And you know what? I'm gonna have to buy food if I'm at home anyway, so it's not like it's extra. This math goes to my mind all the time.
Well, you're not going to be buying Blue Bayou food, that's for sure, if you're at home. I mean, you're probably going to have a bowl of oatmeal. I want you to know, I see you, Neko, in the chat in all caps, where she is just the biggest Rob Bazemore fan, for the fact that you always are like, we all, you mentioned this when I was talking about, you, me, and Stephanie were on an episode or a meeting one night talking about Batu and how I felt like they needed to be different. And you said, look, not everybody gets to go to both like we do. And she was like, amen. So, again, huge fan there. I'm just saying, yeah, I know these are not real problems. I get it. I understand. However, the dollar these days, I mean, job market's been a little bit of a challenge for people. Travel money. There was that whole period of time after COVID where people were revenge traveling, I guess what they called it. Now people are revenge saving. So it really feels like that they're going to have to put out more deals and maybe back off on the price a little bit. Now, they're never going to reduce a price, I don't feel like. They'll just give bargains and deals, and they're doing that now for new annual passes in Florida. So there's a deal right now for new annual passes in Florida that if you buy an Inspire pass, Credit Pass, there I go, confusing them again. Interesting that both coasts, the highest one starts with the letter I. Figure that out for me, Rob. What are they trying to tell me? So the Incredipass, if you buy that brand new, now not renew it, but brand new, you get a $100 gift card. Now, they didn't give you $100 off. They didn't discount it. They just gave you, they were like, oh, thank you. Here's a $100 gift card. If you are a Florida resident and you buy the Sorcerer's Pass, you get $75. If you buy the next one down, you get $50. And if you buy the Pixie, you get $25. So they are doing some incentive, but it feels like maybe not a huge incentive. But again, they're not discounting it. They're just rewarding people or incentivizing people to do it so that they're not really lowering the price, because you can't really lower the price, right?
Well, so look at it this way. So it's all about the perceived value, right? So they give you a gift card to you that's worth $100. But in reality, you're going to use it on merch, or you're going to use it in a restaurant where there's 20, 30, 40, 50% margin that's there for them. So in reality, that perceived value of $100 to you, maybe that's costing them $50.
Yeah. Oh, I'm distracted by the chat now. Juan Carlos says, "How about DVC direct members with APs getting to stack them like I was talking about before?" Yes, please. Let's do that. Jay Ware said, I agree and I support this. And then David says, Iger started with the letter I. Do we really think that's what happened? Why they both start with the letter I, Iger? I don't know. I remember again that the Premier Pass was one of those things. Again, not to get neck all upset again about like both coasts, but the Premier Pass that was for both coasts was a conversation that came up on one of the finance calls, and Bob
Investor
Chapek made
call,
it seem
yeah.
like he didn't know that it was gone, but he would look into it. But I feel like he kind of
He
knew.
said he was going to look into it. Definitely, I remember that. I remember that call.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know what? Something that I think sets a lot of us off that used to be able to get this is Tables in Wonderland used to be a thing that because you were a DVC member or because you were an annual pass holder, you could buy the Tables in Wonderland, and what a great deal that was to get an extra discount and some other perks. And the other thing I was looking at this other thing was that there used to be an Epcot After 4 ticket that you could buy
Oh
locally
yeah,
so
I
that you could
remember that.
go do dinner at Epcot.
Yeah,
That's
that
gone.
seemed like that was brilliant. It didn't seem like it was eating into people buying a normal day pass. It seemed like that was a really smart idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. Is I think that was a thing. So, let me ask you this then, Rob. As we put a bow on this, do you feel like who do you feel like the annual pass is for? I feel like in Disneyland, I'm not sure anymore because of the way they've set it up there. It's such a challenge for locals because the best one that you can get doesn't let you go on in the weekends. And then, and a lot of those folks love going to those hard ticketed events like Oogie Boogie. You don't need an annual pass to do that. So, I feel like it's a tougher putt to get one in California. Number one, because they are hard to come by, and number two, because they're so expensive. But I feel like it makes more sense in Florida to do one. But you had mentioned being a Floridian, so we've talked about the math here. We've talked about how many visits it takes, and again the value of parking and the value of the discounts and all that kind of stuff. But who do you think needs one or should consider getting one, and who shouldn't?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of moving parts, and the use case is very different in California than it is in Florida. You know, I talked to a lot of people, and I used to live in California myself, and I have a lot of friends that live in Southern California, and they see Disneyland like the mall. Like they get out, their kids would get out of school, they'd go hang out at Disney. Instead of walking around the mall, they'd have snacks there, eat there. They would go all the time. Like it's a big piece of their life. Even it's their local place to stop. Even people who I know who are big Disney fans in Orlando aren't quite to that extreme. So I don't know anyone actually who lives in Southern California who doesn't not have a pass. Now it is interesting that they have the increasing layer of complexity around the use cases. That the discounts are very different. All the blackout periods are very different, and I think that has definitely taken a toll. I don't know if you're familiar with the kind of theme park blogger, Fresh Baked, who he
Yeah.
really covered primarily Disneyland, and he reports pretty frequently that the best time to go to the parks is the weekend because that's when they're the slowest, and I think that shows so many of the local residents shifting away from the passes that either don't give you access to the parks at all on the weekends, or they have so few reservations that you're able to take. So that's another piece, the complexity with the reservation system. Just because something's not blacked out for you doesn't mean you have an equal number of available reservations. So those lower tier, it's my understanding that those lower tier park passes also have fewer slots, even if you do have access to go on weekends. So that's been a monumental shift at Disneyland to kind of get all the locals to be there during the week when they get off work. Maybe you meet some friends at Disneyland for a cocktail after work. Your kids go there after school. But that's a huge monumental shift. Now, Disney World is very different because I think there's a lot of people who drive in from various places, right? So yes, you have this huge, Orlando's not a small city, but there are a lot of people who will have annual passes who are in Tampa and they'll drive over, or Jacksonville, they'll come over, West Palm Beach, they'll come over. Even people in southern Georgia will drive down. So I think you get a lot of people who behave like locals, throughout the region of Florida Where I don't think you don't get the same thing. If you live in San Francisco, the next really major city, you're not driving probably 8 hours and through LA traffic to get there. So I think it's really very much regionally, smaller regionally based in Southern California. But that's a very different experience over in Florida. That was a lot of shit I just
Well,
said.
it's all fine. And again, just to kind of put a bow on it, I agree with you. I think that for the California one, I don't think that the value is really there anymore, and I think that's been by design to control the crowds. You've only got two parks, and you've got a lot of people who want to go, and so looking at these prices, $17.49, that's for one person. What if you have a family of four? That's a lot, and they're very good about policing you there. They take your picture, and it pops up on a screen, and if it's not you, you don't get in because people were like, oh, just take my annual pass and you can get in. Not anymore, not unless it's like a doppelganger situation. And even then, I bet you they're pretty precise about it. So I don't think it's a value in California to go. I do think that it's a badge of honor. I think that if you have the Southern California, pass for $5.99 and you can use that one and you live there and can go in on the weekdays that you go in after work or whatever, then I think that there's a value. I think the rest of it, I think Disneyland has become extremely outpriced, and I do not think it's worth it. Now, same thing, and again, you don't get a discount for renewing for Disney World. And I think I saw Juan Carlos said in the chat said Orlando local with an AP and and got a lot of time. That would be a good person. But I think it's a little bit more affordable to be able to do this one. If you're, just on the East Coast, or if you have the ability to go more often, I think this one makes a little bit more sense to do. But the problem with this one is they force you into that Incredipass unless you are local to Florida or you have DVC. So that $15.49 a year, you really just have to see, can you go? If it's 200 and some bucks a ticket, 200, I think we basically rounded out to Park Hop is like $250 a ticket for a day in August, which probably is a fairly cheap day. Yes, you can get a 3-day pass if you go, but if you go 4 times a year, get one. Like, that makes more sense because you're getting discounts and you're getting all of the benefits that come with a pass. You're getting the magnet, you get that crush magnet that everybody's been talking about,
and the hotel discounts. They have some pretty good hotel discounts for passes too. That could save, if you save $100 a night in your hotel, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah. Oh, but they've been doing a lot of other crazy discounts too, though. Like if you have Disney Plus, or if you have a Disney Visa, or if you so there are other ways to get that discount. But I agree with you. I definitely see a benefit, and maybe we've taken advantage of that on occasion. To get that AP and maybe taking that for granted too, because that goes right in your car. And hard ticketed events. I didn't even talk about that. You get a discount for hard ticketed events. If I'm going to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, as a matter of fact, I'm going to the D23, Destination D23 at the end of August, and we're going to go to that Halloween party they're doing. And they set it up that if you were going to the Destination D23, that you could buy a ticket, but you were going to pay full price if you bought the ticket through them. If I bought the ticket through the website and told it I was DVC/AP, it gave me a discount. So that's what I did. I don't think there's anything different in the way I booked that. So if I show up and the people who paid full price get a poster, I might be mad. But again, you get discounts for Jollywood. You get discounts for Mickey's Not So Scary. You get discounts for those hard ticketed events if you're an AP holder, on top of the hotels, on top of the other stuff. So I really do feel like there's a better value to being one in Orlando than there is to being one in Anaheim. And that's really, I feel like, Disney's way of balancing / almost punishing the locals for using that park the way you were talking about, to use that park as a park, God forbid, right?
Hey, Rob, the one other thing we don't take into account as much as maybe we should is that there is a cost of living delta, right? Everything in California, especially in LA, is significantly more expensive than in Florida. I mean, the cost to have food, the cost to live. There is a reason that things are more expensive probably in Disneyland, because they have to pay a higher wage to their employees. They have to pay the cost of goods, and their business is probably higher. So some of that could just be the literal increased cost of doing business in Southern California.
No, that's true. I get that. I'm blown away though when we go there, because there's only 3 Disney hotels. $500 a night for the cheapest, basically, if you're staying at a great night at the, at Pixar place. And so you've got that going against you. And then also the ticket price for a day is much more expensive for a ticket at Disneyland. So if you want if you want to add on Park Hopper, it's $65 more to add on Park Hopper. They're like, wait, it's just right across there. That they should be one park almost. That's why it's going to be interesting what they do with Disneyland Forward, because I wondered if they were going to do a third park in that back area, but it looks like they're just going to extend the existing two. It seems like financially it would make more sense for them to charge a third gate if they could, make enough room out of that area to do it, which was one of the rumors back in the day. But that same ticket that was going to cost us like just under $250 for a day to go to Disney World, it's going to be about the same, I guess, for a one-day Park Hopper ticket tomorrow. Same price, but I feel like it always feels more expensive, and maybe it's just because normally I'm taking my family and they don't have Magic Keys, and so I'm having to pay out of pocket $200 a day to get them to go. But you also, you get that discount on the Lightning Lane multipass out there. 25%, but it's something, and I think they're doing a special deal to give 50% for a short period of time. So that's a value-ish, but yeah, it is so much more expensive to go out, to fly out there, to stay out there, to drive out there. I mean, gas was like $6 a gallon versus coming home to the East Coast, and it was like $2.50 a gallon.
That's cheap. It's $5 a gallon here.
It's how much?
$5.
How? Like, you can get a foot-long sandwich at Subway for that, can't you? I mean, like, that's crazy. Just
that's $9 now. Grandpa, more expensive.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Any other thoughts on this one before we come to a close on this? I think that it's good to continue to have these conversations. Again, I think that there's something to be said about. We can look at it. I think once Epic gets thrown into the mix with Universal, I think we do a comparison to Universal versus Florida. But the one thing, Rob, before we get out of this one, that I wanted to say, and it's something you brought up earlier, was park reservations.
Yeah.
Universal never asked for park reservations. Not once did they ask for park reservations. And Disney, it is 5 years past COVID, and we're still asking for park reservations. It's never going to end, it seems like. And it's easier in Florida because, like I said, they don't punish you if you miss a park reservation. If they have a more relaxed, good to go days without that. I mean, and they've relaxed all of those rules in Florida, but they're not gone.
I hope they never go away. I really do.
What?
There's two things for you, Rob. One, it makes sure that Disney has the right staffing levels at the park. And that's going to give you a better experience, right? If they know how many people are going to be where, they can make sure that the right level of staffing is there, and it ensures you have the best experience. The other thing is, every time they say no to someone going to the park, that means that park's going to be a little less crowded than it would have been if they just let anyone else. Honestly, I don't hear super frequently people not being able to go to the park that they want to go to. But, again, anytime the Disney can do anything to make the parks be less overcrowded. And you got to realize that the park reservation only affects people on the days that the parks are at their busiest. So, again, anytime they can keep one fewer person out of the park to give everyone else a better experience, I'm down with.
Yeah,
I know, a very unpopular opinion, but that's honestly the way I believe. I believe that's the number one issue with the parks when I go, because they can't put a big dome and air condition the whole thing. So the second thing that it is how overcrowded the parks are. And if they can do it, I know Disney has a big push they have since COVID really, they're trying to increase their revenue to earn more per guest so that they can have fewer guests in the park so that everyone has a better experience.
I disagree on that one, because I think that you made the point where you said that you haven't really seen anybody have trouble getting into the parks anymore. So park reservations for a while, especially when Rise of the Resistance was virtual queue, you would it was almost impossible to get into Hollywood Studios for a day, and so you were lucky to do that. But now it doesn't really seem like, unless it's a huge special event like Starlight starting or something like that, you don't. I mean, even with the test track opening, I don't think that day was ever blocked out for Epcot. So I don't know, and yet the parks still seem crowded. So we're not getting what you want, and they're not getting what I want. Like, so get rid of it.
Well, again, imagine the day you went and the park was really busy. Imagine how much busier it would have been if they had to stop more people from coming in. And then the other thing is, again, back to staffing. You want to make sure they have the right staffing levels. You want to make sure they have the right number of pre-mixed Dole Whip for you when you're in the park, right? So all those things, make sure that they have the right number of goods, the right amount of food, the right amount of staffing in the parks to make sure everyone has a better experience.
Well, we're going to agree to disagree, or maybe we'll go to the mat on that one. But two things I wanted to point out from our pack. So thank you to our pack, our Park Adventures Club. Thank you guys for being members of the pack. We appreciate you. That is our community. If you want to learn more, you can go to patreon.com/GoPack, PAC. Find out how to become one of the pack. We would love to have you guys on. But again, thank you. Big shout out to the pack members. But I asked the same question about, is it worth it? And our pack today, and Captain Quackers said, for those of us outside of Florida, if you do 2 or more week trips a year, it pays for itself. But if you're only doing a 1-week trip a year, it's not worth it. And then Egg663 said the best part is being able to, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, is being able to pop into a park for a few hours before or after a flight or whatever without having to waste a day ticket. This is how I felt about having Magic Key. And when I went to California this last time, I met up with our good friend Mike's Adventures, who didn't have a Magic Key, so he wasn't going to pop into the park. So we just hung out at Downtown Disney. Same thing with Charlie. He didn't have a Magic Key, so we weren't going to do that there. But I liked the fact that I could have popped in, done something, popped back out, didn't have to worry about wasting a whole day ticket. That's a cool thing. Then he says, Egg says, it's annoying to have a park reservation, and we're limited to 5 at a time. We don't renew until the beginning of October, so we can't make reservations for a November trip until we renew. Most likely it won't be blocked out, but it would be nice if we were able to have them before the renewal, or for it to just go away. Again, I get what you're saying. On paper, and this is so funny. I feel like this is opposite from how you and I talk usually. You're usually the other side of it. But on paper, yes, I get what you're saying about preparing the park for staffing, preparing the park for supplies. That was part of the hymnal that they were singing out of when they talked about why park reservations exist. And again, that's probably a completely different show for us to go to the mat on park reservations. But I think that I feel like that doesn't happen. I feel like the parks are still overcrowded. They don't seem to shut it down, so then we're not capping out, which to your point about, like, can you imagine how many people would still be there? I think that those people are there. Anybody who wants to go can go. You just have to make a park reservation. I've certainly been there where I've stepped up and forgotten about a park reservation, and thought I could foolishly thought I could walk into a park, God forbid, if having an annual pass, and made a park reservation at the gate so that I could go in. They used to remind you that when you would get to the front gate and tell you about that. But I think for people who don't go on a regular basis, the idea of learning about park reservations, learning about Lightning Lane single pass versus Lightning Lane multi-pass versus Lightning Lane Premier, there's so much going on there. And I think it's just too much, and I don't see it helping. But again, we're not going to agree on that point. So But I appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. I do, again, want to give a shout out to our pack, our Patreon. Thank you guys so much for being members. Again, patreon.com/GoPack. And here's a shout out to our Zebra Mezzanine and Treasure Room supporters. You know who you are, but we appreciate you greatly. We have a lot of great content on this channel, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to parkadventuresclub.com. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We do a review show on Wednesday nights of movies and TV shows that appear on Disney Plus and Hulu Plus called A Look on the Plus Side. This week we're doing Iron Man. Come join us for the very first MCU movie, and we're going to be talking about that one for the first time. And then on Friday night, so Rob, we could have talked about this tonight, but I'm commuting this to Friday night. Disney released its Q3 earnings, and I'm bringing on somebody who has it was an investment analyst to talk about about the Q3 earnings and Disney in general. So we're going to run that Friday night. Join us at 8 p.m. Friday night for that. And then also this Tuesday, I'm going to do a review of my 70, my time at the 70th at Disneyland right before my Magic Key ended. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to have a live stream this Tuesday at 8 p.m. So tune in for that. Tune in for a look on the plus side and our financial review of Disney on Friday night. And then back here again next Sunday night for another Park Adventures Club. Mr. Bazemore, any final words before we let you go?
This is the best way to start my week every week. Thanks to everyone in the chat. And Rob, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you again for being here. Thank you all for being here. Have a great week, and we will see you guys next time. And remember, adventure is out there.